welcome to the Leaderboard. I'm Meg Turney, and we talk about what's going on in the world of esports here. Joining me, as always, is the Daily Dot's Jared Wynne.
That's me.
How are you?
Pretty good.
Let's talk more about Burns.
Let's do that.
First, let's talk about Katowice, Poland, where everything was happening. There's so much stuff happening at the same time.
Literally everything was happening in Katowice.
Everything. There was nothing else going on.
You just like hold in your hands the amount of things happening.
And it was all of it.
Because you can hold everything in your hands. Literally.
Yes. So ESL Katowice featured 16 of the world's best Counter-Strike teams battling it out at the first major of the year. In the end, it was Fnatic defeating Ninjas in Pajamas in an all-Swedish final, 2-1. Let's talk a little bit about what happened here.
Well, I think it reminded everyone that Fnatic is the best team in the world. They had some shine taken off of them, I believe, because of the whole, maybe one of them is cheating controversy. Then we had the DreamHack Winter thing where they had an illegal boost. And that was a big controversy. They withdrew from the tournament. But really, if you take out the DreamHack Winter withdrawal that they had, they won iOS Pentamera. They have just been winning tournaments before DreamHack Winter. The only time they've really been bested in a big tournament was when Indy beat them at the X Games Invitational. So we remove that. They've been dominant for some time. Of course, that does require removing the whole DreamHack Winter episode.
Right.
But if you do that, you see a pattern of dominance here. This is kind of the era, I think, of Fnatic. And that's been overlooked to some extent because they've had so much controversy surrounding them.
Right, but does that, I mean, although we can say they're a really great team, DreamHack Winter did happen. So did this take away from their win in the eyes of the community?
By now, I don't think so, because that has been enough time for that to kind of pass over. I think it's kind of stained their reputation. They don't have as many fans as they did before. Those fans they do have are very loyal to them. They're going to be like, this is the best team ever. So, I mean, we see clearly they're a dominant team. They are the dominant team of this era of the game, so to speak. We've been talking about before, all the pundits have, about how open the field is now. There's a number of teams who can win big events. There's a number of teams who can upset teams who can win big events. But through all of that, I think Fnatic has proven to be the cream of the crop. Now, whether they can carry that over through the rest of this year remains to be seen, but certainly they're the best team right now. Olaf is a great player. Flesha played better this tournament. He had some bad performances recently after the whole cheating or not thing that caused people to raise some question marks. He played pretty well here. JW, of course, always a great player. So, yeah, just a really good team for Ninjas in Pajamas now. That's a whole other subject because they brought in Alu, of course, that replaced Michael. We've talked about this multiple times. We haven't
stopped talking about Ninjas in Pajamas.
But it became even more interesting now because Alu played really poorly through 6 games. So NiP played 6 games before the final. They won all 6 of them, some of them very comfortably, and yet Alu consistently played poorly. He was a very subpar statistical performer throughout those games, and yet in the final, he played quite well while NiP lost. So it's hard to take measure of what happened here. It's really hard to measure his performance because he did play well in the final when they lost, but then he struggled so much when they were winning throughout the rest of the tournament. So is it maybe a case of how he struggled throughout, but then in the final, his teammates lowered their game, so he kind of rose up? That's possible. Exist played very well at times, then didn't show up in the final. What they do with Alu now remains to be seen, because apparently the goal here is to win a title. And if you don't do that, like Michael did not do that, even though he made 2 finals with the team, that's not good enough. So Alu made a final. They didn't win it. Is that not good enough? Does he now get booted? Is that the right move? Do they need to reset again the roster? I don't know.
These are all the questions I want to ask you, and yet you are asking them yourself.
Yes, I'm asking them to you, actually. I want to know what you think.
I mean, I think it is genuinely interesting because we talked about Michael going all the way to the finals, doing well considerably, and then Alu having all this pressure coming in. How did that affect him? Is it because he was so worried about how he was going to do, whether or not he was going to be dropped immediately, that he did poorly, and then realized, well, I've already screwed it up? Then maybe he played better thinking, well, all's lost already?
You can frame this any number of ways. That's definitely one way to frame it. That would make sense in like a certain sense, I suppose. The bottom line is that he underperformed for most of the tournament, and then in the most important matches, he played up to par, but they still lost. Right. So it's just really difficult to take measure of his performance personally. Virtus Pro played pretty well. We thought they might go all the way because they're in their home country again. They lost the semifinal. Envy going pretty far, losing. So yeah, the typical teams we thought would make the top 4 made the top 4, even with how open the field seemed to be. TSM played very well, but didn't make it. Again, they ran into the NiP wall, which is for them a big obstacle. NiP is a big obstacle for most people except for Fnatic, apparently.
Right.
So yeah, and now NiP has a really poor record in major finals, actually. They've been considered kind of the dominant team of CSGO, and yet in major finals they really struggled. So there's that to consider. And I also want to bring up one other thing.
Yes.
Nuke is a map in Counter-Strike, and it has been for a long time. I've played Counter-Strike since the first beta update, okay? So I'm an OG when it comes to CS.
All right, throwing it down.
A CS OG, right? So I appreciate the place that Nuke has in Counter-Strike, but it really stuck out here. You had 2 matches with a 13-2 first half on Nuke. That's a pretty good margin. Like, you should feel pretty comfortable with a 13-2 half. Both of those teams who had that advantage, 13-2 at halftime, then lost the match because they went 14-1 in the second half. That's odd. Virtus.pro plays a close series with Keystars, the Brazilian team. They go to Nuke for the third map. Virtus.pro takes the first half 14-1 because they get the CT side, the advantage side, and then Keystars are kind of screwed there. And the match is over in a blowout, and you never really get to see a good third map to conclude the series we should have seen. I think Nuke has proven, with the time that teams have spent on it now, to be significantly, dramatically, overly strong for the CT side. That's not a big surprise, but it's even stronger than we probably thought it was until recently. It needs some changes, or it needs to be taken out of the map pool as Train was and reworked. I know it's sacrilegious to a lot of people, probably in Counter-Strike, and I understand that. I'm good with that. But you know what? Aztec was taken out before. Prodigy a long time ago. Maps that are this one-sided eventually need to be tweaked. And Valve has proven willing to do that. They've made changes just recently to Overpass into Cobblestone to accomplish the same goal. So I think we might see this happen. I hope we see it happen because it's not exciting to me. I don't think it's a good thing when 13-2 is not a reasonably secure halftime lead. Like 13-2 should be pretty safe. Sure, a comeback's great, but when you almost expect a comeback from that kind of margin, it's not so great anymore. It's
not
just
exciting.
it's just boring. Yeah, you're just waiting to see when you might win 1 or 2 rounds on the T side. Now, obviously not every game on Nuke goes to that form, but when you see a consistent pattern of it like this, I just don't think the map has a place as it currently exists in the current meta on the biggest stage. And that's my monologue on Nuke.
Yeah, if your mic was able to be dropped, I would ask you to drop it, but it's already dropped. All right, there were other big tournaments going on in Katowice, so let's talk about one of those, the IEM World Championship. This was notable because it's one of the few times during the year when we actually get to see the best League of Legends teams from different regions play each other, and I'm pretty excited about the results. So let's talk about Team Solo Mid kicking some ass.
Well, that's the result, isn't it? Team
Boom.
Solo Mid kicked some ass. They did. They won the event. They came, they saw, they won. They got nearly suffocated with confetti. They almost died on stage because of the I mean, that's just way too much confetti. I just want to. You know what? I called for Nuke to be reworked. I'm also going to call for a confetti reduction. Okay, because this was intense. I was in fear for Dyrus's life as he just tried to remove the confetti mass. So yeah, a lot of confetti. That's a waste.
Let's talk about before the confetti, though.
Okay, before they did play some games before the confetti. Yeah, they played great. They beat CJ Entus, one of the 2 Korean teams, and then World Elite, who came into the final red hot, just got dominated by TSM. I think the most impressive thing about TSM in the tournament was that they didn't really play that impressively or that flashy, is what I mean. They didn't play in a way that made you say, wow, this is a great run for them. They just played very much by the books for them. They executed their game plans. They just did their thing very well. It was really impressive to see that. Bjergsen, of course, playing very well mid. Centauran stepped up when he needed to. Dyrus is the rock top. Wild Turtle had his good moments, some overly aggressive moments, but he played pretty well overall. Lustboy, of course, doing his thing. So yeah, the whole team playing quite well, just a great performance by them, and they deserved it. They were clearly the best team at the event. That's saying a lot, because we had GE Tigers here who were unbeaten in the LCK, the Korean League, the strongest region in the world.
Right.
They lost only 2 games there, 0 matches. They lost as many games in this event as they had the whole LCK season to this point, which then brings us to World Elite beating GE Tigers, which is a crazy result. You've got a team that's at the bottom of the LPL, the Chinese League standings. They come in and they beat, in a best-of series, the best team in the world, by far, the dominant Korean team.
So what do you think that is? Do you think it's because of travel? Do you think they were just having an off night? I mean, what happened? They're the best team in the world, and yet they didn't even make the finals.
Well, everyone traveled.
Right.
So everyone had to do the same thing. There was comments by Lustboy, actually, that said maybe the Korean team had some problems with their schedule, but they didn't affect them before when they beat SK Gaming, when they played very well before that. So I don't think travel is to blame. All teams travel. It's just a matter of they lost.
Right.
They lost in shocking fashion to World Elite. But again, this wasn't even that weird of a thing. World Elite just looked like a better team. They looked like the better team in that series, which is crazy to say. I think it just shows that the international level has kind of coalesced now a little bit. I'm not saying that I'm going to bet against the Korean teams at the Mid-Season Invitational or at the World Championship. I would put money on them if I had to put them somewhere. But still, it shows that anything can happen, Meg. And I think the fact that we don't have that many international tournaments is actually kind of obscured how close things really are. So
because we talk about how dominant the Korean scene is, and then here we have a North American team taking it home.
Yeah, well, you don't have that many examples of how dominant they are. It's just that when you come together, very occasionally, they have won, and at times won very impressively. So you say, okay, they're the best, no one can touch them, and that seems to be the case. But we have seen Korean teams come out and get, have things reversed on them. We saw a Korean team get swept at the World Championships. We saw the best teams, or the Samsung Galaxy teams, have games taken off of them by the North American teams, TSM and Cloud9. So it's not that surprising. It's just that we've so accepted Korean teams as our overlords in League of Legends that to see them get just sent out, like, get out of here, move on, in a big event like this, it's kind of shocking. And that's why it's surprising that you have a non-Korean final with a North American team and a Chinese team. No European teams making the playoffs here. Kind of like no European teams made the playoffs at Worlds, which is unfortunate for them. So they'll definitely want to make a better showing at mid-season. SK Gaming kind of underperforming here. Flash Wolves, letting everyone know, Taiwan.
Is on the map.
What about, it's technically on the map, but we already knew that.
But like, it's not physical. We're not talking about an actual map.
We're not?
No.
Okay.
Roll it back.
What kind of map are we talking
about? It's like the metaphorical map. Like, put it on the map. I don't know if that's the shoulder that you do for a map, but okay.
I was doing your shoulders.
Did I do that?
Yeah, you did.
Can we roll it back?
Yeah,
replay?
It's encoded on the video now.
Okay.
It's there. So yeah, we're figuratively putting Taiwan on the map. Or rather, we're not doing it. Flash Wolves
they are.
figuratively put Taiwan on the map. Very impressed by them. They played quite well. In fact, the only team to challenge TSM was Yoey Flash Wolves. Believe that.
I do.
Because it's true.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up. But before we do, we also want to talk about the Counter-Strike tournament surpassed 1 million viewers.
It did.
That's awesome.
Whoa!
1 million.
1 million. Making it rain with the viewers. Kind of, yeah. So, yeah, Counter-Strike becoming very popular. How about that?
Who knew?
I did.
People like to watch it? What?
They do. What? Turn down the...
Nope.
Nope.
Not going to sing it
Turn
again.
down the nope.
No.
Yeah, so this is kind of a big deal for Counter-Strike, and it shows Valve's continued play into it has really had an effect. You can look at the chart of players and viewers, and it just keeps spiking up like a big money thing from a movie, where the boss brings out the chart in the meeting and it shows
like
how their
Wall Street
profits are up, and then eventually it crashes down. But hopefully that's not going to happen here. Yeah. Well, they have like the esports cases and the unlock things and Operation Vanguard, or whatever the name is they're going to use for the next one, Operation Forest Retrieval or something like that, which have new maps come in for the rotation. And they also promote the big events through the in-game client. Like you can buy stickers and bet on which teams are going to win. So they do a really good job, Valve does, of promoting the game, and that's shown. That's grown it. Imagine this: you can promote the game effectively, and that will grow it naturally over time. It's shocking, I know, for some developers to hear this, but I'm promising you that if you do that, it works. And this is proof of it. Proof positive, you might even say. You might. I just did.
You did.
Word.
Catching up on some other quick results from Katowice before we go. Catching up. The Hearthstone tournament was won by Swedish player John Orange Westberg. I wanted to be like Orange. While the StarCraft 2 tournament, was won by Juzes
He's Swedish.
Sungwook.
Do you think that's how Swedes say orange?
Whatever.
Is that how Swedes say orange?
I like it. I think that's great. Say it like that if you want.
Your Swedish accent?
No, not going to do it. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Sorry,
I peaked my mic. For more of the leaderboard, we'll be back next week. GG, everyone.
You can say Zest's name.
I did.
Give him respect.
I did. You were talking over me.
Well,
if you'd shut your damn mouth for 5 seconds, you would have heard me say his name. You get off the stage! You bitch.